What happens when one of the greatest actors of our generation sits down for what should be a simple chat about his latest film, only to be blindsided by a host who refuses to show even basic respect? In just 33 seconds, one careless comment would ignite a firestorm that would see Anthony Hopkins walk off the set of Loose Women, leaving Denise Welch exposed as someone who let her ego destroy what should have been television gold. The studio lights were bright that afternoon, shining across the familiar pastel-colored set. The audience buzzed with excitement. This was no ordinary guest. Anthony Hopkins, the legendary actor known for his intensity and grace, was there to promote his new film, a psychological thriller he'd spent years developing. The panel that day featured Denise Welch, Nadia Sawalha, Kay Adams, and Janet Street Porter. Hopkins entered to warm applause, smiling politely, shaking hands as he sat down. Denise leaned forward with a practiced TV grin. "Welcome to Loose Women, Mr. Hopkins. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here today." "Thank you for having me," Hopkins replied calmly. "It's always a pleasure." Denise wasted no time. "Now, before we get into your film, I have to ask something everyone wants to know. You've been in Hollywood for decades, worked with everyone. Who's the most difficult person you've ever worked with?" The audience chuckled. Hopkins paused, blinking slowly, clearly caught off guard. "Well, that's quite a question to start with," he said evenly. "I'd say everyone I've worked with has been professional. Film is a collaboration. You learn something from everyone." But Denise wasn't done. "Oh, come on, you can tell us," she pressed, waving a hand dismissively. "We've all heard stories. There must be someone. Was it this actor? That director?" She rattled off names like a gossip columnist. Nadia shifted awkwardly. Kay glanced at her notes. Janet raised an eyebrow, sensing trouble. Hopkins kept his composure. "I don't think it's fair to single anyone out. My focus has always been on the work, not personalities." Denise laughed sharply. "You're being so diplomatic. So boring, really. Our viewers want the dirt." The crowd gasped softly. Hopkins' expression hardened. "I came here to talk about my film. Perhaps we could discuss that." Applause erupted. Denise's smile tightened. Sure," she said, but her tone dripped with sarcasm. It was only the beginning, and no one yet realized how quickly the interview would spiral out of control. The tension in the studio was rising, though most of the audience didn't quite understand why yet. They could sense the friction, a subtle electricity in the air that hinted something was about to break. Denise leaned back in her chair, her lips curling into a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. "Your film, right?" she said, brushing off the applause. "We'll get to that. But first, I think it's only fair we address the elephant in the room. You've got a reputation, Mr. Hopkins. Some people say you're difficult to work with. A perfectionist to the point of being impossible. What do you say to that?" Kay tried to interject. "Denise, maybe we should." But Denise cut her off sharply. "No, Kay. This is important. We're journalists. We ask the tough questions. That's our job." Hopkins didn't move. His hands remained neatly folded in his lap. His calmness was almost unnerving. "With all due respect," he said quietly, "I think you may have confused asking tough questions with being unnecessarily confrontational. I came here to talk about my work. If that's not of interest, perhaps I'm in the wrong place." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Denise's practiced smile faltered for half a second before returning, sharper this time. "Oh, don't be so sensitive," she teased. "We're just having a chat. You actors are so precious sometimes. Can't handle a little straight talk." Janet leaned forward, her voice measured. "Denise, I think what Anthony's saying is that maybe we should let him talk about his film. We invited him here for that." Denise shot her a glare. "Thank you, Janet, but I can handle this." She turned back to Hopkins, her tone tightening. "So tell me, another one of those serious dramas where you brood and look intense? Is that your brand now?" Hopkins took a breath, steady but clearly irritated. "The film is about a man confronting his past. It explores memory, regret, redemption. I believe it's some of my best work." "Memory and regret," Denise repeated mockingly. "Sounds thrilling. Do you ever do anything fun anymore? Or is it all doom and gloom with you?" The room went still. Even the audience, usually eager for drama, seemed uncomfortable now. Nadia jumped in, her voice soft but firm. "I actually think it sounds fascinating. Anthony, what drew you to this story?" Hopkins turned toward her, visibly relieved. "Thank you for asking. It's the complexity of the character. He's not a hero or a villain, just a man trying to make sense of his life. Denise sighed loudly, cutting him off again. Very deep. But let's be honest. Why not do something people actually want to? Artist. Denise scoffed. That's a big word. Some might say, pretentious. The atmosphere shattered. Gasps filled the studio. Janet's eyes widened. Kay looked horrified. Nadia froze mid-breath. That single word, pretentious, was the spark that lit the fire. Hopkins' expression darkened. The charm was gone now. Slowly, deliberately, he began to unclip his microphone. The faint hiss of the microphone being unclipped echoed in the silence. Everyone on the set seemed to hold their breath as Anthony Hopkins rose from his chair. His movements were deliberate, graceful, not rushed or dramatic, but filled with quiet authority. I've been in this industry for over 50 years, he said, his voice calm but edged with unmistakable disappointment. I've done thousands of interviews. I've answered every kind of question imaginable, but I've never been spoken to with such blatant disrespect on what's supposed to be a professional program. Denise's face turned red. She stood up too, her tone defensive, trembling with anger. Disrespect? You were the one being disrespectful. You come on our show acting like you're doing us a favor. I was invited here, Hopkins replied firmly. I accepted that invitation in good faith. I expected a professional conversation. What I got instead was an ambush. Janet stood up beside him. Anthony's right, Denise. This has gone too far. You've been needling him since he sat down. Stay out of this, Janet. Denise snapped, her voice cracking. No, Janet said, her tone sharp as glass. I won't stay out of it. This is embarrassing. We invited a legend, and you've spent the entire time trying to humiliate him. The audience began clapping, hesitant at first, then louder as more people joined in. Denise looked around, realizing the crowd wasn't on her side. Her mouth twitched. I was just trying to have an honest conversation, she said quickly. If he can't handle a few tough questions, maybe he shouldn't be doing interviews. Tough questions. Hopkins repeated slowly, his Welsh accent deepening. You call that tough questions? You haven't asked a single thing about my work. You've only tried to bait me so you can have your little moment. Nadia stood up, moving closer to him. Anthony, I'm so sorry. This isn't how we usually do things. Please, sit back down. We'd love to hear more about your film. Hopkins looked at her warmly. I appreciate that, truly. But I think it's best if I leave. He turned toward the audience, his tone soft but resonant. I apologize to all of you. You deserve better than this. The studio exploded into applause. People were standing now, see. The words hit like thunder. Kay Adams moved quickly, stepping between them. Please, everyone, let's just take a breath. But Denise was past the point of no return. You think you're better than us, don't you? She snapped. You think we're beneath you. This little daytime show, these silly women. Hopkins shook his head sadly. I never thought that, he said. I've always enjoyed shows like this. The problem isn't the show. It's you. A collective gasp filled the room. Janet tried to suppress a laugh. The tension was unbearable now, electric and raw. Denise's eyes were wide, her pride wounded. How dare you, she began. But Hopkins didn't let her finish. Respect is earned, Ms. Welch. And you just lost yours. For a long moment, the studio was completely still. The audience didn't dare move. The panelists stood frozen. And the only sound was the hum of the cameras still rolling. Denise's breathing was shallow. Her face, once smug and controlled, now showed something closer to panic. You think you can come here and insult me on national television? She shouted, her voice cracking. This is my show. Hopkins raised an eyebrow. His tone was calm, but it sliced through the air like glass. Your show? I was under the impression this was a panel show, that there were 4 hosts. Not one. But perhaps that's the issue. You seem to think everything revolves around you. A laugh escaped Janet before she could stop it. Denise spun toward her, furious. You think this is funny, Janet? You think it's amusing that he's attacking me on my show? Janet straightened. What's funny is that you brought this on yourself. We all warned you, but you wouldn't listen. Denise's voice rose, shrill now. Oh, so you're all ganging up on me? That's rich. I'm the one doing my job here, asking the questions that matter. Kay, usually the quietest of the group, finally spoke up. Denise, you've been hostile since he sat down. You didn't ask a single question about his film. You just kept trying to provoke him. I wasn't provoking anyone. Denise snapped. I was trying to get past the PR nonsense, to find the truth. The truth about what? Nadia said sharply. That he's difficult? Pretentious? Those aren't truths, Denise. Those are just your assumptions. Denise pointed a shaking finger toward Nadia. Don't you pretend to be innocent. You all think it. You're just too scared to say it. Hopkins looked at the chaos unfolding around him, the arguing, the anger, the unraveling professionalism, and spoke softly, but firmly enough for everyone to hear. This is exactly what's wrong with this kind of television. You pretend it's about honest conversation, but it's really about spectacle. You invite people on, set traps for them, and when they react, you call it real. A producer rushed onto the stage, whispering urgently into a headset, trying to cut to commercial, but the cameras stayed fixed. The meltdown was happening live. Denise turned on Hopkins again, her voice hoarse. You've been famous so long you've forgotten what it's like to be challenged. You just want people to worship you. Hopkins stepped closer, his tone quiet but commanding. No, Ms. Welch. I've been challenged my entire life. But there's a difference between challenging and humiliating. You've crossed that line. Denise's mouth opened, but no sound came out. For the first time, she seemed unsure, exposed. She sank back into her chair and muttered, I was just doing my job. But even she didn't sound like she believed it anymore. As the applause faded, the screen cut to black, and the chaos that had erupted in that studio would become one of the most talked about moments in loose women history.